Neither can I. Shit.
Hello and welcome to Spitfire. This is episode 52. My name is Brice. We're taking you through the topics and weaving away through the conversation this week. Of course, joining me as always, making sure the production is on point most of the time and chiming in when he feels like it, Mr. Tunn. But more importantly, our guest for this week, Clint Evans, better known as Maven.
Hi.
Big face of Call of Duty for quite a long time here, and we're here to talk a little bit about next year, but more importantly about you, because admittedly it has taken us over a year to get you on, but now you're finally here, and I'm happy. How are you?
I would like to be clear on one thing. This is the first time you've asked me to come on. I said yes. So let's not paint this like I was asked a lot of times and turned it down.
He tells me he asks you every single week.
Whoa. This is the first time he hit me up. I said sure. But no, I'm doing very well. The off season's been good to me in the sense of I've been able to focus a lot of the personal content side, been streaming a ton as we've been working on the negotiations and commentating for the CDL. So it's been good, man. A lot of time with the fiance, a lot of time with the pups, and a lot of time streaming Blackout. It's been a good couple months for sure.
Yeah, I remember that. That Blackout grind. I was very much into it, but when the new game came out, I kind of switched to GBs and the new one. And I feel like I've been. I think my issue was I was waiting for the BR to come out on the new one. It's like, come on, new BR.
We did too. Like we first, like our group with like Crowder, TP, and Joe, we switched and played wagers instantly. But then there was that the spectator glitch that would happen, which made it kind of unfun to play wagers at the time. Yeah. And we just sort of realized that people enjoyed watching us play a BR more. And I think part of it is just it's more impressive when someone wins a BR. Like when we go on like a 6-game win streak, It's not like winning 6 hard points. Like it's a kind of a different beast because not everyone can like win a BR. So we kind of switched back to Blackout quickly. It's just been a lot of. Our crew's been having a lot of fun with it for 16 months now, 15 months.
Yeah, it's kind of mad. Like we'll cover this later when we when we talk about you and your career and such. But obviously, like the big thing at the moment is obviously the CDL is starting soon. It's a big year. Let's just say that, minimum of 300 mil for team investments and God knows what else they've thrown behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it's probably the biggest, most important year in the history of Call of Duty, you could say, with everything that's going into it. Yeah. There's going to be some bumps in the road, I'm sure. We, if you were around when it went from like MLG to ESL back with Black Ops 3, like that, every time there's a transition, there's always some bumps. But I think you could make the argument this is the most important year in the history of Call of Duty Esports. I think it's hard not to.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. Are you feeling more pressure this year? Is it you kind of thought about it? Like, has it got a bit more stressful for you?
Not really. I mean, on the contract side, I guess I felt a little bit of stress because, it's just, it's kind of my livelihood outside the streaming thing. So yeah, some stress there. But with regards to the league, I guess I don't personally feel stress. I would imagine maybe higher ups at Activision or CDL feeling some pressure just because they know it needs to do well. But I guess I sort of view this as it's a long-term play, right? Especially for the people buying into this league. It's just not, even though this year is so important, if this year goes very poorly, it's not that big of a deal to me in the long term, in the scheme of things. Yeah. So not really, not that much pressure this year. I'm going to treat it as any other when it comes to like the commentary side of things.
No, I get that. A lot of people have had this misconception that all the money piled in is it's all on this year or nothing. And
yeah, that's real stupid.
Yeah. Nobody's invested going, I hope the first year goes well or we're out.
Yeah.
For like 5-10 year plans or whatever and see how it all comes out. But speaking of this first year, now, it has been seen, publicly and on Twitter and stuff, you've been jumping in and out a lot of player scrims. Yeah. I'm guessing that's to kind of learn the game and get more familiar with the pro-level setups and some other things?
100%. Yeah, no, I'm just going to be blunt. I kind of told Joe when we were going through negotiations, I was like, I'm not putting a second into watching scrims or really trying hard to learn this game until I'm, kind of close to signing a contract. Because I just didn't want to put a lot of time in and not stream when I wasn't sure for a long time if I was going to be working on it. So now that we're closer to it, it feels like we're going to. We started to watch a lot more scrims, and we've been doing it for about a week and a half, just trying to. The players have like a 2 p.m. scrim, a 4:30 scrim, and a 7 o'clock scrim. We've been hopping into one at 4:30 every day, and it's been interesting, kind of hopping in and learning and watching the various squads.
I've always said myself, one of the interesting things. Like I've played a lot of GBs on this game. Now I've actually really enjoyed the game battle side of it. But I always say, like, I never really get like proper learning this game until you watch it cast at a pro level. Because I find like just casting a game and having to go through those thought processes of what are they doing, why are they doing it, what's effective and what's not effective.
Embeds it in, doesn't it?
Yeah, it embeds it like nothing else.
Yeah.
Which is why watching stream. Yeah, go on.
Well, no, that's why it's funny. Like I've gotten, not so much because I've been grinding so much COD with streaming and stuff the past year or so, but like I used to years ago get, crap for not playing it as much and how could you learn it? But like you said, it's so much easier in CODcaster watching the pros to learn than to play, just because when it boils down to it, even if you and I put a lot of time into it, we're just not playing at that level. We're not playing at that pace. They play at a speed that we cannot replicate. I don't know about you, Brice, but I can't hop into Pro 10s and just hang with them. So yeah, most of the learning comes from just watching CODcaster, watching the pros, because there's a reason they're professionals. They play the game quite literally at a different pace and level than others. So yeah, no, I totally agree with you. The learning comes from commentating and watching.
I think the last time I actually jumped in Pro 10s was the beginning of Black Ops 3, and to keep up, I was essentially cheating and using scumbag classes. I was using scumbag classes to keep up. It was with the LMG. I found out before it got banned, you could just spray down a door for like 4 minutes, and no one can get through. But it's interesting that that's the way it works. So, like, I'm sure you said a minute ago, you've been criticised in the past for maybe not playing as much as some others, but that doesn't happen. Like no one expects Gary Lineker to be on the pitch doing up and down the pitch every weekend for it, but he has that knowledge, and you have that knowledge through time and learning and watching strategies.
No, I mean I think I'm the one that's poke fun at the most for not knowing what he's talking about, but when it boils down to it, I'm the play-by-play like hype guy, right? Like I'm the one that captures those big moments, kind of tell the common man what's going on and breaking stuff down. The guy that really needs to know it is my co-caster in Merc. It's so funny. Like I'll see stuff like just sometimes people how they view commentary, they don't really get it. Like if I'm breaking down plays, I'm doing it wrong. Like I'm not doing my job. I shouldn't be really talking about stuff at a high level. That's for the former pro, one of the greatest players in the history of Call of Duty, and in Merc. So I leave that stuff to him. But no, I do know more than people give me credit for. Just from it, dude. We just watch too much of it. You commentate too much. Like you just sort of you learn as you spend so much time around it.
Yeah, you certainly do. It's always been my way as well. I never feel like I really know the game until I've watched it played at a high level, because you said it is a very different ball game, and you hope that once you get in and see the pros who do know what they're doing, and they've been doing this way more than we could ever put the time in, because they're 12 hours a day with coaches. But moving on, the game's obviously come out, and it's been a rough ride, I will say, in terms of the competitive scene adapting it as easily as some other years. But truth being told, I think we're in for a very good year, especially in Search and Destroy. I really appreciate this game on that mode.
Yeah, I've been torn with regards to this, because Call of Duty's never a game, and most games aren't like built with esports in mind, right? They're built for the masses, and then they can be tailored towards esports. And we always have a difficult thing because our two games are kind of different. But it's been interesting because on one side of it, seeing the numbers that come out, well, not the exact numbers, but like saying that this is like the most played Call of Duty of this generation, and all that stuff makes me so excited, because when you think about the potential of in-game viewer and in-game stuff, it seems like there's more potential for eyes on the esports side, even if they don't really play the esports bit of it. Is it going to be a little bit then of an uphill battle for the players and getting everything they want? I think so, but I think at least in my eyes, Infinity Ward at the beginning of the title, they have to focus on what the players are playing, right? 99.9% of the players have been playing ground war, gunfight. Like if they want to keep people playing the game, they got to focus on that stuff. I'm hoping very soon the esports side is going to be the lock and the focus, and all that tuning and stuff is going to come, and we'll get a lot of advancements that the players have been wanting. But I don't know. I guess I'm kind of torn. I kind of get why it's played out the way it has. But I am very excited for Search. Search should be godlike on this title. Yeah.
Yeah, just a further point on that myself is that I think a lot of people, like, especially maybe, I don't want to call the fans out, but to the point of where like a lot of people don't understand how long it does take to implement some things. Everybody has complaints with the game. Like it's a natural thing, but it's one of these things where like everyone.
I've never played a flawless game. Ever.
Well, no, of course, but like, everyone expects it to be like instantly fixed. The things that we want change, but it's not just down to the esports side of things, and it's not just that easy either. Like I think a lot of people just think that they can just change something and just make it exactly how we want it instantly. Like it takes time to sort these things out.
It does, and it takes time. And like I do think it's fair. I can't really speak for IW, but I do think that there is a priority system to this, and even though we have this franchise league and stuff, it is still a very small number compared to the overall Call of Duty community. Like, they're going to get around to stuff, but there's a lot of other fires to put out and stuff early in the title. So I don't know. I'm very excited for the future. Search will be great. The only thing I'm worried about is Dom. Not a big fan of domination, but other than that, I'm excited.
Hey, it's better than Blitz. I'll give it that.
Maybe.
Here's another thing. We kind of touched on it a little bit. The gunfight thing. I think it may be one of the, like, you know how big Blackout was last year for Call of Duty and for the franchise. And obviously, the competitors I never really took off too far. But gunfight, it feels like that for this title because a lot of people just enjoy jumping in as a 2, going into gunfight in the different modes, the different ways you can play it. And it is, as by its very nature, highly competitive.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. I mean, I think people love to knock the developers and, you know, always say Call of Duty is the same every year, but it's just not true. Like, I think gunfight is one of the better creations than an FPS that we've had in years. It's awesome. It's very, very cool. I mean, yeah, I guess it's kind of a new mode along the lines of a BR being added and stuff. But no, I think it's awesome. I just think it's weird though, because I guess I never really thought that BR for CoD would be an esport, like gunfight would be an esport, just because we already have Call of Duty esports. Like, we already have a multi-million-dollar franchise league, and there's been a decade of history. It's hard to imagine them doing something else. But do I think gunfight will find a way to be involved in the circuit this year? 100%. I'm sure in some way gunfight will be involved. Now, am I saying for the actual tournament with the pros versus the pros? No, but gunfight in some way, shape, or form will be a part of the broadcast part of the year. There's no way it's not. It's too popular.
Yeah, it's certainly, and again, you know, bearing in mind that there's the in-game tournament thing, which I played the crap out of when it started.
No, that's awesome, right?
Yeah, really to get a skin and stuff. I was like, that kind of engagement with players, casual players, for a prize. That's, in my mind, that's the first step on the road to people becoming competitive fans. Because that's one of the big goals, right? There's always been a big goal of Call of Duty, is how do we get the 20 million or so players engaged with Call of Duty esports? It's always been the question, right?
We've always said, you know, it's like I think over the years, you know, like companies like MLG and stuff have done what they can, but where the ball has been dropped is at the developer side, like in the in-game side. It's where we've never really perfected it. I don't think we've gotten close to getting that side right. And that is why I think the franchise league is the most exciting thing for me, is because I think a lot of those wants and a lot of those asks that we've had with regards to in-game support to draw people to esports, I can promise you without question over the next year, let's say 1 to 2 years, there will be more advancements there than the last 15 years of Call of Duty esports combined, without question. So that is maybe the single most exciting thing about this whole thing is basically the developers, and they got to give a shit now. They got to give a shit now. They just have to. So that should be cool.
Yeah, and we all know that, you know, no matter what happens, the esports community is going to be the most vocal on Twitter. So, so their social, regardless of what they think, their socials are going to be going crazy, and I'm sure they get updates about it. But enough about the future. Let's roll it back for a little bit here, because we also want to talk about you, because, you know, you are like the main face of Call of Duty at the moment.
Look at his face too.
But you've had an interesting, not only career, but life in certain parts from work, and we won't go too deep into some areas, but let's roll it way back to, you know, maybe the previous title in terms of like Halo, right? That's where you came from. That's where you started this whole kind of journey.
Yeah, my first. So we'll try to talk too long on this. I can talk forever, but I got into esports pretty early, because my first MLG tournament was MLG Seattle 2004. So that is 16 years ago now.
Jeez.
And it was, it was small. There were like 30 something teams. But that's where I first met the Sundance, Sepso, the Ogres, Puckett, Chibi. That's where I met like all these guys. And I went to, I think, over Halo 1 and Halo 2, I competed in like 6 or 7 tournaments. Loved it. But then I think I was in college at the time. It was kind of hard to juggle both. And I realized I was never going to be a professional player. I sort of didn't really follow it much for years. I got my degree in marketing. I finished school up. And then it was when Halo 4 came out in 2012. So quite a ways down the road. It was Gandhi who I met. So Gandhi, for those of you who watch, he was my first commentary partner. I met him through Halo 1. And he was like 16. And I was 21. Like, and he was just a young god. And we became friends, even though there was like that age gap. Like, you just kind of mutual respect when you both love a game like that. And I remember he like hit me up years down the road. He's like, "Yeah, you're trying to stream this game?" And I was like, "Ah, whatever, sure." So we started streaming Halo together. People thought we were funny. We got asked to commentate an AGL event, and that's sort of when I first got my first taste of commentary. And I'll never forget how nervous I was, because I grew up thinking like the ogres and Walshy and all these guys were gods. Like I thought they were gods. And the first event I ever commentated, I got to commentate with Walshy. I was shaking, dude. I was terrified. Like I'm gonna embarrass myself. I'm gonna piss off Walshy. Like Walsh is my god. But yeah, that's how I got into it. It was just this weird, like, I mean, a lot of luck and just kind of knowing people, and it was kind of crazy. But that's how I got into it.
Yeah. It's interesting because I had speaking of Walshy, like I was a big fan of Halo back then as well. That's where actually my handle comes from.
Everyone was, I think. that was the original console.
I remember watching on MLG. I watched all the LGs. I remember being a big fan of that. Even when it was even StarCraft. I just got into esports massively in that way. Then I remember
Halo and StarCraft time was amazing.
I remember having to cast with Walsh, but fortunately I'd been doing it for a little while, but still meeting him for the first time, I was like, holy shit, that's Walshy.
I was the same, and I was like, and this isn't anything on Walshy, I was surprised at how nice of a guy he was as well.
He's the nicest guy in the world.
This is like one of the gods of esports in general, and you meet him and he's like the nicest, soundest fella on the planet as well.
So funny story, we went to, I think it was WCG Buffalo, and this was, World Cyber Game, WCG, yeah. It's like 2004 or 2005, something like that. I went with JMB, who was an STK back in the day. It's actually, Xena, like she played Halo, she competed, she was like one of the first pro girls.
I think I've heard this.
Pro female gamers, yeah. So it was actually her older brother. They lived near me, that's how I met them and got into this stuff. But anyway, I went to this tournament in Buffalo, and Walshy was there. It was this 1v1 tournament. I was a nobody. Like, no one had any idea who I was. Like nothing, no social media, just nothing. Met him for the first time. He played me in 1v1s for like hours. Just literally played me in 1v1s for hours. Me, him, and J&B went to see a movie later that night together. Like I was just mind blown. Like that just was so, because he was so popular and so big to me that I couldn't believe. I don't know. I just thought it was so cool. Like just going to a movie with Walshy and stuff. It was very.
I find
it was a big deal to me back then.
I find with a good amount of those old school esports people, especially like with the ones who don't play, like Gandhi was the same way, right? Gandhi's like friendly as anything, he got his bad side. But a lot of the old school people, they really don't have like an ego or a hostility to them, especially in Halo, right? It's crazy just how chill that community is.
Part of it just wasn't as big. So the fame and like the mental complex that I think a lot of people get now, because now, I mean, the stars are legitimately famous in their own right, which I just don't think that was the case then. Like they were very popular, but it just wasn't the same, man. It just wasn't the same.
No,
so that might be part of it.
Yeah, maybe.
They're genuine people, but I think it's hard to compare the two, like where it's at now versus where it was then.
No, I understand. I think it's one of the things that struck me as soon as I walked into doing a bit of Halo back then was just how unbelievably nice everybody was. I was not expecting that from a veteran esport.
I think we said the same because we both worked the same event. It was the only, I think it was like one of the only two Halo events I worked in. We both said afterwards, it was like one of the best crews we've ever worked with. Like everybody was real chill, but I think it's just based off that original, not a load of people watching, etc. So everyone was just real chill. Yeah, it was a weird one.
Yeah. Let's move it forward to Call of Duty. Because if I remember correctly, your first cast is legendary.
Yeah, it was something.
I don't even know if it must still be about somewhere. I haven't watched it in a while.
It might be out there still. What was it? I don't remember where the event was. Was it Chicago or?
I'll be honest with you. I'm trying to think.
There was a venue where I think AGL was hosting a Halo tournament and UMG was hosting a Call of Duty tournament. They were both in the same like ballroom. And I'll never forget, Gandhi and I were commentating Halo, and it was back when, I mean, we weren't getting paid at that time. I think we had a 30-pack of Bud Light under the desk back then. Like, it was a lot different than it is now. And we were commentating it. I remember like Golden Boy was commentating Halo, and I kind of knew him loosely. And I threw something at him while he was mid-commentary, and then we started riffing back and forth. And he's like, "You and Gandhi want to cast a match?" And we were like, "Yeah, all right, we'll hop on the mic." We had never really played much Call of Duty, didn't know anything about the teams or players, didn't know a single call out, didn't know the names of the weapons, the streaks, anything. So we just completely goofed off and basically trolled for an entire cast. And the viewership went up. I remember it went from like 15,000 to 25,000, and people were losing their minds because we were just a couple of idiots. And UMG guys were like, "Listen, you can't do that every time, but if you learn the game, we'd love to have you back." So from then on, we we sat down with like the Mr. X's and Revens, and I think it was Rambo. That was the big help. Rambo played like league play with us every single day to teach us the game. And that's how the transition happened. I mean, we knew Halo was just sort of, it was during Halo 4. Like there were 7 people watching it. And we kind of knew that Call of Duty was the next big thing. Yeah, that's when it was blowing up, obviously, with Black Ops 2. So that was one of the better career decisions I've ever made. It wasn't a very hard one. As I said, I wasn't being paid at the time. I was massively in debt, but that's how it all started. It was kind of insane.
It's interesting to me because if I remember correctly, and I don't want to go too much in your personal life because I think it's been covered a few times, but the risk you took to kind of make this work is it cannot be kind of, in my mind, stated enough, because from what I understand, like you had a rough few years, to make casting a full-time job and to take it very, very seriously. I know we joke about you being, a goofball and messing around and all that sort of stuff, but the truth of the matter is, there has to be some intelligence behind that to make this work from there to now and the place you've come, because it can't just be dumb luck, right? It's not, as much as we like to joke about it.
There's definitely been some luck, but yeah, no, it's been it's part of it's just surrounding yourself with the right people. Like another guy that kind of convinced me to take the leap and get into this when I had no money and no plan was Gandhi. He was the one that was like kind of like moved to Illinois, worked with this UGC company, just start kind of commentating stuff with me, and that's when we worked on like it was basically MLG was outsourcing the Pro League for Ghost, and Gandhi and I were commentating it. But yeah, like I moved across the country. I had nothing but my 98 Camry and like no money, and just sort of made it work. But yeah, I think it's just like it came down to, I think anyone that had been involved or been to an event and was a big gamer, you kind of knew there was something there, right? That it was going to be something that was going to grow, and took a gamble, and it took years and years to pay off. I mean, it was years of not making any money and living off a credit card, but I'm very happy now.
No, I'm sure you are. I'm sure you are kind of moving forward. So here's one thing I do want to talk to you about, Maven, and it's the way you kind of perceive casting, because in my mind, it's way more technical than people give it credit for, right? Like if you don't improve and you don't keep on top of your game and you don't try to make strides in giving the best show possible, then you will find yourself ousted and maybe not in the position you want to be. So I was very curious about how you kind of look at it from, just when you go into a cast, because I know you have a few rituals you do before you go to it directly into cast, but I mean, but a bit before that.
You just want to comment on my philosophy on it? I mean, it's interesting because like the number one thing for me, and it's not very technical, but I remember when the first commentators that Gandhi and I watched that we wanted to mimic was Tasteless and Artosis in StarCraft. And if you've ever watched them, they're goddamn brilliant. And what I loved about them, what I wish I still did more of now, is they weren't always talking about the gameplay. Like I'm trying to think of a way to word this. If you're watching StarCraft or watching Call of Duty, like more often than not, you play the game, right? You play it. Yeah. It's where you're watching it. It's like you kind of understand what's going on. And like with StarCraft, you kind of had to. And they would spend so much time just telling stories and like riffing off each other. And what really stood out to me is how much fun they were having. Like fun is contagious. When people are having a really good time, you can tell they're enjoying themselves. You sort of want to watch. You want to stay glued to it. So that's always been like, as stupid as it is, that's been like my number one outlook on commentary to start. Find a co-caster I can have fun with and have fun. If I'm enjoying myself doing this, people will enjoy listening to it. So that's been the biggest thing. As silly as that is, it's just enjoying it. And I enjoy the shit out of it. I think that comes through on the mic to people. That was number one. So from a technical, do you mean technical standpoint, like how I actually prep?
Well, yeah, because like there are, it's not just the prep, right? And we'll talk a little bit about the prep for it, but you are something of a veteran caster. Obviously, you've won Broadcaster of the Year. There is obviously a craft that goes on that people don't talk about, right? You keep that near the stream just in case. But there is more to Maven than just jumping on camera and going, "Oh, this is great," right? There is this whole workload you put in behind the scenes. I don't think people really appreciate. Now I've seen clip snippets of it. I've seen other bits of it, and I've seen you with your work head on, which is a very different Maven.
Yes. Well, I think it has shifted though a bit in the sense of, I'll be honest with you, nowadays is they're prepping, learning the game, and going back and forth with Joe and thinking of different topics and strategies we're going to talk about. Yes, but a lot of it now is, for me at least, probably because I've been doing it a long time. Like it is it is more or less, I just need to cast. Like, I just need to show up and cast, and that is my primary focus. But for a long time, there was a lot more to it just because we had to wear multiple hats. I mean, Brice, you're probably aware of this when you were with G20 and different companies. Like, when I first was getting into full-time commentary, like, I was working on signing people to contracts for MLG.TV. So, like, I was on their sales team, basically, while also trying to commentate. And then when I went to ESL, I was a creative producer. So we were working on all the graphics and working on all the storylines. Like, there was a lot more to the prep than there is now, which now it's been great because I just have to focus on commentating to the best of my ability, knowing the game as well as I can, knowing the players, knowing the storylines. So it is actually just, I think, Brice, a lot more just having to show up and cast nowadays, which I really like, versus, there was a lot more bullshit to do. I'd have to go in 9 to 5 and just do other shit all the time.
It's interesting you mentioned this, because in my mind, now that you've said that, there's almost like 3 phases that I can remember my personal experience with you. The first phase was way back before, like, and this was more European events and stuff where you didn't have to do any of this other stuff, but you were involved with Call of Duty, turning up the cast. You were very laid back about it all. Obviously, at European events, you've never slept well in your life. Don't know why.
Oh, God, the worst.
So you've got essentially what is a bit of a grumpy Maven, hanging around the green room or sleeping when we're supposed to be casting in the cinema seats.
I've done that.
Yeah, which is an interesting one. But that was more of a carefree Maven. The difference I saw was when, obviously, like joining ESL and having more responsibility. I call it clipboard Maven, because you always seem to have some sort of folders or papers with you, and you had to right, I've got to go to a meeting. I've got to go here. I've got to go to this other place. I can't talk. But that's a side that people didn't realize, because you only ever get seen when you're on camera. Like,
well, and that was there was a lot more of that, Brice, back then. Like, what are you talking, like ESL days?
Yeah, I think so. I just remember it being at least a couple of years where, and it's not like a dig or anything. You were more standoffish because you just had other priorities that you had to do outside of talent hang around and we goof off and we go out for meals and stuff. And you were like, well, I can do some of that, but I've also, by the way, I've got to have meetings with very important people in a minute, which is something that people don't realize, because you still go on and you cast and you're the same person casting and but people don't realize that the rest of the talent didn't maybe have as much responsibility as you did.
It was, it was definitely like that for years, because we would just be working so much with the producers on it, or being the producers ourselves with regards to just the graphics, the stats, everything that goes into the broadcast. We had a lot more of a hand on. Now it's far more, it's interesting because going into this, I've actually not been involved in as many meetings as the past, just because I haven't signed on to do the CDL yet. Whereas I probably would be involved in way more combos. But if you just look at last year, for the most part, the behind the scenes stuff really boiled down to like stuff like trading shots, stuff like Hot Mic. Hot Mic is the one that was probably the biggest workload for me year in and year out, because I'd be the one that would have to find the guest. We'd have producers on it that wouldn't know much about the players, know much about storylines, know much about the plays that happened because they wouldn't be watching it. So I basically would produce Hot Mic, which was a headache just because players were a pain in the ass sometimes. But
we know
that was
not to the same extent, though.
The
same
so that was the big stuff where my kind of the extra workload was, for the most part, outside of casting, was just Hot Mic and trading shots over the past couple of years, because it's tough, because you get these companies will hire people to work on shows and stuff that'll be very good at and maybe writing scripts and being producers, but they just don't know anything about Call of Duty a lot of the time. So it's like, they hire people. What do you think the first thing is they do? It's just they hit up Joe and I, like, what do you know about this? What do you know about that? Would be a good question for this. What's his history? It's like, okay, so now we're writing the show. It's so that's been one thing over the
sounds a bit like the hiring process for some of these orgs in the off season.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because it's always been a kind of a bug of mine that, some people are very, very good at what they do, but esports has taken a different tact, right? We've always, there's people speaking and go, in main sports, they never even see the casters or name them or anything. And I'm like, yeah, but this isn't that, all right? We're not the same. This is very much personality driven. People come to watch players. They come to watch the interactions and the storylines about it. Casters are a big part of that. You're going to have to deal with it. And we've seen missteps from, a few people along the line, especially coming into Call of Duty and such, overtime, for instance. But that kind of thing happens when you don't have endemic people to the scene who can kind of nail it down.
No, the worst part about that is there were endemic people working on that. They just We don't need to get into that, but
I got wrong off Adam Apicella for taking the piss out of that on Twitter. I was terrified. He DM'd me. I was like, shit. Oh, God.
Oh, my God.
Oh.
It's interesting. Anyway, moving on from as we could talk about the clipboard era for Maven. You say, I want to talk a little bit about your prep for this because I always find the funniest thing with you.
Oh, Brice.
Brice's internet's gone.
Oh, Brice, we still love you, but you are frozen out. Unfortunately for you, you don't have a great look on your face, Brice. I'm gonna double click so I can zoom in on him. I can't.
If anything, it's a better thing that he doesn't.
No, it probably is. You're probably right.
I'll tell you what.
We can continue on with this, Tunny, and see if we can get back in.
I tell you what, we can go with something else while he, because I know he was wanting to talk about Minnesota. I'll let him resume his conversation.
Sure.
I think we should talk about Minnesota. I know you were saying that you're not like fully signed up and whatnot yet, but I think.
No, I'm still not. I mean, I just can't like officially say I'll be there, but I should be there.
I think we should talk about the schedule. I think we should talk about the games coming up and what we sort of see. And yeah, he's actually gone now. I'll change us to.
Well, it's been. I mean, we can just sort of loosely talk about stuff. Like it's been interesting because I don't know what to expect from a lot of teams because London just started scrimming. Paris hasn't scrimmed at all.
Nope.
Who am I missing? Is there Toronto? Toronto hasn't scrimmed at all, really, because they were waiting on Lucky and Metals. Or did I get that right?
Yes, they were waiting on the Spanish coming over. So I think it's hard to like. I mean, I want to sort of predict the games, but it's like it's difficult, isn't it? Because it's
we don't need to predict games. We can start talking about teams loosely if you'd like, and sort of talk about Minnesota because Minnesota is just all it is. Each team's like playing twice, right?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not like our tournament schedule doesn't start to London, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and it's not every single team. Yeah, I'm just trying to get the schedule up just for curiosity of who's playing who, but more so like I think a lot of people have been looking towards Dallas at the beginning of the year, which does make a lot of sense. But as you said, though, there has been teams who haven't been playing very much. Also, we were speaking to Rated last week about London, who had, I think, they'd had visa issues, that sort of thing, which is always going to be the case, but. You see this Paris team, they haven't struggled getting out as well. The players seem to be thinking that London is the proper start of it. Minnesota is just sort of like the first tournament. It's the same as any other first tournament.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no, but I have to think. See, I don't know how it works as far as I would assume Minnesota is going to, and maybe they already posted this, I'm not sure, but it's going to affect the seeding, obviously, for how the bracket's going to play out at London. So it's important in the sense of, I think the scariest thing about the new format, if I am a millionaire investor or whatever that bought a team, like let's say Paris or whoever, I think this is what's scary about it, is if it was the old league format, right, with how it was before, at least you're guaranteed so many homestands, so many matches, like you're guaranteed this much camera time, you know exactly how much you're going to be involved in. What changes now with the tournament is you could just get double bopped every weekend. You could literally just lose twice and you're done in group play with how it's set up. And so if let's say you come to Minnesota and get smoked, and then you are playing Dallas, Atlanta, Chicago first round, and then God knows what your second round matchup is, like you just might start out slow. And I think starting out slow is scary, and that there are going to be some teams that are going to play 2 matches a weekend and be done.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I think especially towards the beginning, it's going to be the case, especially with some of them, how little practice they seem to have had and how much practice some of the other teams seem to have had. And
that's scary. Now, do I think that we're going to have the most competitive group of teams of all time? Yeah, because we went from 16 to 12. And if you've looked at the league over the past couple of years, there's usually around 4 stragglers, and then there's 12 competitive teams. So I think it should be very competitive, but it's not league matches. It's like a tournament. And you are seeded, and you are going to play. You might be the 8th seed every week playing against the number 1 seed, unless the format's different than I think it is. But it's got to be seeding.
I think it was like 2 different groups, wasn't it? They were trying to do. I think that
two groups of 4. They're like GSL style brackets, but something has to seed into that. I don't think it's going to be unless they're randomizing the groups each week, which I don't think will be the case. And
I don't think people than us figured this out.
Yeah, see, I don't know if they said anything public about that, which I might have missed something. But if it is seeded, which I assume it would be, it'd be interesting.
Yeah, I think so. It's gonna be a struggle for some teams. I am worried about a couple of them, specifically more the European region ones, just because of. I said I mean I wouldn't be so worried about them on a plain paper standpoint. I think some of them have got decent teams, but I think in terms of the practice they had, it's definitely going to hurt towards the beginning of the game because it's like, well, you have to learn the game as quickly as possible, and they are just not going to be as aware of something as some of the other teams.
And I think what's really scary, search, we already know a lot of teams don't put in time to that, and they kind of learn over the course of the year because teams don't want to scrim it. So they might not be that behind in search, which is okay for them. Hardpoint, though, now that I've watched a lot of Hardpoint the last week and a half, it's not Hardpoint as we know it. It is not even close to Hardpoint as we know it. It is nothing resembling Hardpoint as we know it, other than the rules and the points. But when it comes to actually playing it, it's different than anything we've ever seen in the history of Call of Duty. So that's played twice in a best of 5. And there is just, I don't see how a team that hasn't scrimmed much is going to have a chance in Hardpoint.
I think it's just the spawns as well. Like, you see a couple of the players tweeting out saying, "Oh, well, how come I haven't got spawns here?" These sort of things, and it's like, well, it's just different now. And I think a lot of people's complaints were about the spawns, etc., etc. But I suppose it's like it's just not what we're used to. So
yes, exactly. They're not anyone saying they're random, or it's not that. They're just different. Not saying it's a good thing. Not saying the spawns are good. It's just very different. They're very sticky. It is nearly impossible to spawn teams out. The only times I've really seen it is a legitimate 5-down scenario, which never happens. It's super hard with the way the spawn system works. And I think it's even harder because it's 5v5. If it was 4v4, I'm wondering if the spawns would be a little bit better because it's like you always have someone alive, right? Like you don't have a clean 4-down, which is easier to have than a clean 5-down. It's tough, man. Like I don't think there's a couple teams that I think have really gotten better at it. They're starting to learn. They're starting to adapt. I've watched some teams that are still trying to play hardcore, like old school, and just getting smoked. I'm trying to think of the best way to even describe it. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. It's like if you think of, let's see if I can word this without sounding like an idiot. Because the spawns are so sticky, and because it's so hard to spawn teams out, instead of like rotating early and trying to play for the correct spawn on the current hard point, like you're playing one step ahead, you're now having to play like 2 steps ahead in the sense of you're always playing for the side of the next hard point. It's very weird. I think I'm kind of explaining that properly, but you're always, it's not like
preempting.
Yes, it's not like an old game. Think about it. You would want to get the back spawns for the hard point, and then with like 15, 20 seconds left, whatever, depending on the title, you would start to rotate to the next. During the current hard point right now, you are almost always playing for next, and then playing for next, and then playing for next. It's very weird. It's just weird, man.
Yeah, I mean, look, it might change as it goes on because we've always notoriously known that spawns at the beginning of the game do tend to change as time goes on. Like last year, like Seaside, for example. I mean, it was earlier. It could be changed. So I was wanting to talk about domination, though. I know you're not a fan. I when it originally like sort of was announced, I was a bit worried because it's one of these games where there is quite a lot of places for people to sit, that sort of thing. Do you think it's sort of like how campy it potentially could be, or is there other
I'm not worried about that exactly. I'm more worried about as a commentator, like what the fuck I'm going to talk about for 12 minutes. Like it's just, it's going to be hard not to say the same things over and over again because it's going to be the team 2 capping and watching a team try to break that one cap over and over again. I think what will be nice is if you remember at the Ghost, they had neutral flag. Yeah. So like, remember you had like at 5 seconds, it would turn white and no one will get points. Like they don't have that right now. So like a lot of overextensions and big pushes don't amount to anything right now. So it's like not as story driven. I think if that changes, which it might, that'll help. But it's just, and the other problem, like, dude, there's 2-3 minutes sometimes where the game's over. And I'm so torn on that because there's part of me that thinks we should just end the game. If that's the case, if it's over and there's 3 minutes left and they can't change the outcome, the game should end. But at the same time, if a team's up 40 in a basketball game, they don't end the game. Like, I guess there's issues with it if you think about stats context with history of stats for players, if you're ending games early versus running the full time. So I was thinking about that issue last night because, dude, we're going to have like 2-3 minutes sometimes where Joe and I are going to be like, the game's over. The game, they legitimately, mathematically cannot do anything, and then I'm going to want to die.
Yeah, there is that problem. And I think even when, like, I mean, this is way back when I used to play like Modern Warfare 3, that sort of thing. And like when you were playing it, you were always trying to figure out yourself if you were in the position where you're going to win. Now, the viewers are going to have to do that as well. I'd imagine in my head, I feel like there'll be something in Codcaster, but I'm not 100% sure to sort of say like there's a win condition, that sort of thing. But
I think it's going to be math.
I mean,
We'll
it's going to be up to us, isn't it? Really? Well, you use it more than me, but
so. What is it? You have 3 cap 36 a minute, right? You make up 12 points with a 2 cap every minute. Yeah, I don't know. I'll tell you what I was watching. I've been watching Dom, and it has been making me miss uplink, miss control even. But I've heard. I guess the CTF is just not very good in this game. So even when the players voted, they lean towards Dom.
When we were speaking to Rated last week, he said it just doesn't. It doesn't seem to work on this game. I made the argument for control as well. I seen you talking about it on Twitter. I thought control was a decent game mode last year.
Yeah,
and I think it will actually be all right on this game as well.
Was it the best game mode of all time? No, but like, if I think of all the titles that have had CTF, very few of them have been good. It is very hard to have good CTF. You rely on a lot of it's been like 7 years. You could say World War II had some good CTF, but not as a viewer, really. I don't think so.
No, it was a bit slow, wasn't it?
So like uplink, I don't think would make a lot of sense within boots in the ground. So I don't know. I think control was the best like boots in the ground game 3 we've had. Like CTF when it's good aside. But I don't know. Control is I like it. You had the clutch moments, you had that slay aspect versus having to play strategy. You saw different openers from different teams. The more I thought about it, the more I liked control last year. Fun.
Yeah. No, I was on board with it. I was quite disappointed to see it wasn't in here. Domination was a surprise for me, though. It was a real surprise for me. I actually thought, and I hadn't actually played it, they were going to put, was it Cyberlink in? Is that, what am I? No, Cyber. What's the one with the MP? Cyber Attack. That's the one. Sorry, I thought they were going to give that a go.
Well, I didn't really think about that much. I know I saw a lot of people enjoying playing pubs in it, but I think the issue for a tournament organizer would be how long can that go?
It's the age-old sabotage issue, isn't it?
If you're what's the clock? Like, how does it even work? Because if you're rezzing people, can't it just go on for like ages?
It can. The rounds can. I want to say they've got a timer though.
I'm sure they do. I just remember. Yeah. I remember I played it a couple times in pubs, and I remember there were some rounds that were ludicrous. I had like 8 rezzes, and they went on forever. Whereas search, you kind of know exactly how long a search is going to be, right? Like it's somewhere between 5 and 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. I just wonder if CyberTech could like go insanely long, but I thought it was a pretty cool idea. I mean, IW's had some cool ideas with like that mode and gunfight and different stuff.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we just seem to have found ourselves a domination.
We'll see how it goes. Maybe it's gonna be better than I think it'll be. I just know watching scrims, it's been
it's hard to keep up with it. So, well, it's not hard to keep up with, but it's. I even from playing it, I think the only aspect that we could sort of look at and sort of create stories around, it's about that sort of neutral home hill. That would be good. But even like at the point where if you jump on it, a couple of members and it does load up to a certain point, you have to reset that. So it's in there sort of, you know what I mean? It's like that's the only thing you can really touch on.
Yeah, it's gonna be. We'll see. I mean, I think when Dom's very close, it's gonna be. It could be very cool, but even then, like I just still don't like the math of it. Like for the viewer, like having to break down, like if they can come back when it's close. Like it's not like our point's just so easy. Like as far as like the timer and the clock, like our point can be very complicated from a strategy standpoint, but from a score standpoint, it's not. Dom can be kind of messy. I just feel like for the average viewer, but maybe I'm wrong. I just hope there's not a lot of times. My biggest concern is just games are over and they're. Lots of time.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I think one positive though is that S&D seems to have had a bit of a resurgence this year, at least anyway. I know a lot of people weren't hugely a massive fan of that in previous years. You know, it's not really been a classic S&D, whereas now it seems to be in a better point that the community seemed a bit more engaged with S&D. Like, especially at the beginning of the game, there were so many streams, people playing S&D all the time. That does seem to be a game that a lot of people like. I mean, I've been playing a lot of GBs on S&D myself, and I think it's the best S&D we've had in a while.
It's gonna be our best mode. Yeah, I think 100%. I think without question, it's kind of hard to argue it wouldn't. Obviously the it's pretty split. I think on the fence about how Dead Silence works in this game, but
there is that.
with it the way it is. I mean, it's still gonna be I think our best mode. It's just it plays really really well. The pace of this game. And I'm gonna like search a whole hell of a lot. Even just playing wagers has been a blast. So that'll be the strong suit, I think. And then hardpoint, we'll see. I think there's potential there. It's gonna be take some getting used to.
I think another thing to touch on as well. Brice has told me that there's a storm down south at the moment because I'm about like 5 hours drive north, so I'm good. But like he's having a storm in the area, and apparently that's fucking his internet up. So he's trying to come back. Bricey. Oh, poor Bricey. Yes, I know.
Poor Bricey.
But I think something else to talk about as well that we talked about quite a lot recently is how Activision have obviously changed the format, that sort of thing. It did go from doing league matches every single week, moving over to a tournament format. I know for a fact that me and Brice were a huge fan of that. We sort of said straight away, this is the change that need to happen, because league matches every single week, wherever you are, whatever day it is, if it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they're all the same. There's no build up like a typical CoD tournament, but now we change back. It's definitely a positive choice. Yeah,
I mean, and I think there were a lot of people probably involved at a high level that were trying to mimic traditional sports, and I get that. But like, it's not like, I mean, hell, what would you rather watch, even as regular sports? Let's say it was a weekend and whatever basketball team showed up and played out a tournament. Like, that'd be way better. It's just not realistic because the physical aspect of it, like, they just can't keep playing games. So we don't have to worry about that as much. Like, since it's a video game, like, we can do a lot. We have a lot more versatility, I think, when it comes to format. And I was very frustrated when the change got announced because obviously I have my ears to the grapevine a little bit more than the average person, and I know how much feedback there was that it shouldn't have been the way it was in the first place. But the fact that this pivot happened before season 1 makes me very, very happy, because I said something about a month, no, maybe a couple months ago. I said something that, like, I said it out loud to Joe, and I was like, I hate that I just said that. But I literally said to him that I disliked the format so much that I was rooting for this year to struggle so they would have to change it. And I was like, I shouldn't feel that way. Yeah. I didn't think there was any way that shift was going to happen before season 1. I thought it would take the season 2 without question. The fact that they pulled the trigger on that a month out with ticket sales already up, I was mind blown. I couldn't believe they did it, and I couldn't give them more props for doing it, because that's one of those things where you sort of have to say, we screwed up, and it doesn't look good. But the only thing I don't like is, like, I don't know about you, but I watched that Drive to Survive thing on Netflix, the F1 documentary, and I've seen that, the F1 more recently, and I've said, like, I wish it was like F1, where it's just like we go to one location, all the teams go, they play it out, we have a winner, they get points. Go to our next place the next week, do the same thing, tally up points, have a tournament at the end. The only thing that's different with this is we'll have obviously 8 teams there instead of 12, which I'm assuming that came down to logistics of it. Yes, I imagine that's probably the case, but that's probably the only thing that I would have preferred in this, is that all 12 teams were there. But the other issue is 12-team brackets are a nightmare. Like, that's 18 brackets, very easy to do. 12 teams, a nightmare. Well, a nightmare within 2 days. I think you'd have to try and, I don't know what you would do. I'm not a bracket expert, but it would be a little bit messy. So I think they did it for a couple of reasons. But overall, I mean, it kind of is like Formula One in a way. Like, you just don't have all the teams there, but it sort of mimics that. I think it's very cool.
Yeah, I think the Formula One format, I said, if it wasn't just a 12 teams, would have definitely worked. Like, I mean, from following that, I think my only issue in my head would be that somebody would be like crown champion, would be sort of champion, so to speak, or first on the ladder. And there's still a couple of weeks to go, that would probably be the only issue to go.
Well, see, I don't really mind that in this, because the difference is when you talk about F1, they don't have a tournament at the end. Like, you talk about F1, it's just by the points, right? You just accrue so many points and then somebody wins. But this, I mean, for the most part, it's going to be about seeding for that big tournament as well, whether it's like a mid-season tournament or end-of-season tournament. So even if you are that number 1, you're still going to have to play a tournament at the end to decide the ultimate victor.
So it's all just...
I think there'd be some prizing on the season, but it's still like a seeding into a tournament, whereas that's not the case for Formula One. So I wouldn't worry about that as much. I mean, I get what you're saying, but the fact that you can have an actual tournament is a little bit different.
Yeah, right. I think we figured out an issue. Brice can't get onto this program anymore. So if you go into chat on this, I've sent you a Discord link.
Are we just going to switch this live, bro?
So we're just going to switch it live. We just do things on a whim here.
Okay.
So you see the chat in this program?
I see live show. Yeah, I'll stop it in general. You can move me down.
Yeah, I'll move you down. I'll move you down here, and then...
So what am I closing? What am I doing?
I will mute you on this, just so we still got your face at least, and we'll just go voice through that.
Okay. I have returned.
Hey.
Weirdest internet issue ever. I do apologize.
What's up, buddy? We were just talking random shit.
That's no problem. I do apologize. I don't know what's happening, but certain websites won't load. Everything else is fine. Speed's all fine. I've reset everything twice. So, but we'll continue. I've been listening a little bit because Twitch would load for some reason, so I could keep up with what you guys are saying.
This gives me a great chance to actually make your picture hilarious on the show.
Brilliant. I think my face is funny enough. But let's switch from where you were to back where we were, if that's okay.
Yeah. It's fine.
I heard you talked about the game and some other stuff for the teams and the formats and stuff. But I want to talk about your prep before it, because like I said, you have this. It's only something I really noticed the last year. What you do just before you go into a cast, like you have to make sure like you've got your energy drinks, Maven. You've got to make sure like ibuprofen is nearby. You're always wondering about how hot it is.
Yeah, no, that is the
8 bottles of water.
That is the single. Well, yeah, no, you sort of nailed everything. I have to have water at all times. I have to be properly caffeinated. And my number one thing is when I'm too hot. Yes, if I get too hot, my brain does not function very well. Like I struggle to follow the minimap. I struggle to talk about stuff. I have to remain cool. It's like my number one thing to our producers at all times. Like if it gets too hot in here, I'm gonna kill everyone because I'll lose my goddamn mind. So that is probably the biggest thing. If you're talking less prep and more just sort of like I don't know
approaching the cast.
Approaching the cast. Yeah, I mean, if I'm in a good like headspace, like not sick, no headache, got my water, I'm nice and cool body temperature wise, I'm ready to dominate. You bump up my temperature a little bit. Ooh, my casting sucks.
I'm very much the same way. Heat is a massive issue. It's surprising, by the way, just how often that is still an issue. Not so much now with veteran tournament organizers, but it used to be so much worse back in the day. Like people go, oh yeah, you can cast here. It's like 8,000 degrees, and I've got to wear a jacket.
It's like they don't account for all of the millions of gaming things and setups for the production team. Like they don't think of all the heat that comes off of that stuff sometimes because it's a lot.
Yeah, and people give out heat.
Yeah,
we've all seen the Matrix. We're all batteries.
Yeah.
I think it's Sundays because when that was the only time we ever have to wear jackets, and like obviously we were up at the same place where last year where you're casting. And holy shit, I'm all right with the
Champs last year.
Oh well, all of the events. Champs last year was bad.
Champs was so hot. Oh my god, I wanted to die. It was so hot at Champs. I couldn't tell you one thing I said over the final couple casts. It was just so hot. I blacked out, man. I thought I was going to pass out. I kid you not. At one point, I texted Drake. I'm like, I'm going to faint up here. I'm going to literally faint up here. So that was tough.
It is genuinely crazy how often that happens as well. Speaking of which, on those same lines, how much have you enjoyed the switch away from jackets? I mean, obviously you've had your famous orange jackets in the past, but the more relaxed style.
It's better. I mean, we're not
100% better.
People need to realize we're not the NFL. We're not the NBA. We're not appealing to a demographic of 18 to 65 or whatever you want to appeal to. 99% of our viewers are probably under the age of like 35. Like we're appealing to a much younger demographic. We're appealing to more of a tech community, like hip. You just don't. I just think it's overkill. I hate when I see people. I remember Pucky used to love the tie, dude. I'm like, why, man? I'm not wearing a tie, bro. Like, why?
But he looks like he should be in a tie.
Yeah. I don't mind I don't mind the host being like dressed up a little bit more, but I do not want to commentate like all dressed up. It's just not comfortable. Ugh, no.
It's actually weird, Pucky. You speak about Puckett with a tie. When I saw him at the Esports Awards, when he was in just casual clothes, it freaked me out more.
Really?
I was like, I'm so used to seeing him in like a suit with a tie. Him in casual clothes looked wrong. Just couldn't get over it. I was looking at him, it looks wrong. You should be in a tie and a jacket. That's who you are, Puckett. Put it on.
Yeah. Right. That is who Puckett is, though, for sure. Yeah. I'd rather be comfortable and relatable, I guess, personally. But
yeah,
no tie for me.
The comfort thing's a big thing for me, especially like if you're sitting down or in these desks with no leg room, which is a very common thing in casting as well.
I gotta stand, bro. I can't commentate.
I don't mind standing. I sit for the S&Ds because a lot of it I'm kind of thinking over than the slow plays, but I stand. But my issue is, and this is another thing people don't realize about casting, is a cast can actually, for me anyway, can change depending on where the screen is. If I have to look straight down, it sounds much worse for me. I have to kind of like step away, and because otherwise I feel like a lot of shit in my throat and stuff. Like I need that big, massive screen standing upright.
I wish you knew some of them. Wish you knew some of the
big screen.
Oh, it was great.
The best.
I loved it.
The best.
I wish you knew some of the battles I went through at MLG that were just so stupid. Like just battles that didn't need to be battles. Like the that's one that stands out. Like we'd always have the screens down the desk. Like getting a TV set up. Like dude, I just had to bitch 4,000 times for that to happen because it's just not something I think was a big deal or consider. I'm like, trust me, it helped so much for me with my voice to look straight on and talk versus this.
Yeah, because
it's horrible. It's horrible.
You're not like if I'm talking down like this, I sound different. Like, and it's like you can collect like saliva. Like, it's just better to be upright. Like,
there's so many little things that just took so much time. Oh my god, having someone else drive the goddamn podcast.
Oh my god,
that took me the number of emails that took and complaints to get that to be a thing. I'm like, we should not be doing this. Like, no one else does this. I had to write up a whole email and like a reason, the benefits. I'm like, everyone else just does it. Why do I need a list of stuff? Like every other esport, no one's doing this.
It's made you appreciate how like amazing Paradox is as well. Like,
yeah, I love him. I love him.
I was saying to him at the end of last year, I was like, you better ask for a shitload of money, by the way, because you are as important as everybody else.
No, dude, a good observer is worth their weight in gold.
100%.
1,000%.
I think that was my problem with observing, though. I think that's the one, because I was. I'll hold my hands up here. I wasn't entirely thrilled at the move away because I got very good in my mind at driving because I've done it so much.
Yeah.
There's no way you could be 100% focused on both. It's impossible.
You can't.
But I think it helped my thought process. I realize now that with a good observer, like I can do the same shit because I can concentrate on the minimap. But before, I think it's good. Go on.
No, you're right. Like it is easier to sort of when you're like the play-by-play to like drive the conversation, Brice. Like you're right. Sorry to cut you off, but no, there were things that were easier about it. 100%. Like to control the narrative and do it. Like you're not wrong, but in the heat of crazy moments, dude, juggling it all, no.
I think my biggest issue is just how many bad observers there are. I'll call people out. I call people out all the time. There are some observers who are shockingly bad. Because I give the same talk to any observer I work with. I said, look, listen for the cues, for God's sake. And then second of all, like important things like the basics, right? The snipers are usually good to watch an S&D for a pick, see if they get it. Always watch the one in the clutch. Always watch my fucking rotations. I hate the rotation thing. Bugged me last year more than anything else on this planet because I'd be sitting there going, look, there's 30 seconds at this hard point. We don't care about it really anymore. We need to go to the next one.
Yeah.
We need to go to the next one. There's a fight going on at the next one, and we're not there again.
See, Clint didn't have to deal with this.
No, see, I did.
Paradox had it nailed down.
Well, Paradox is great, but I'm the one that typed up, dude. I don't know what happened to him. I had this like big Word document on like best practices with what modes, what to focus on. No one read the goddamn thing, but I had it all typed up, to try and assist people with stuff. But dude, speaking of Codcaster though, man, I can't. I don't know what I can say and what I can't, man. I'd love to say a lot of stuff here and hype people up, but it is going to be the best Codcaster of all time. There are going to be features that, dude, okay, no, I got to tell you this. I don't care who I piss off. I got to tell you this. Okay. Each year since Black Ops 3, I would get the opportunity to go to the developer, work directly with Codcaster early, come up with a 1,000,000-page document on what needs to be changed, what features we would like. I did it like every year. And I'll send you it later, Brice. I have 30 to 40 page documents on what we need to do. And what was really funny is I did this and I sent it to the guy. I'm not going to call names up. I sent it to a guy that would get it to the dev and then we'd hope stuff would happen. And most years, nothing happened and I get pissed because all these things I wanted would never happen. And we have a meeting before this year. It's the first time, dude.
It's
the first time we have everyone, man. Like from the devs, from the Activision side, from the league side, we have everyone in one room talking about stuff. And we're like midway through the meeting, and I basically find out that those docs were just going in a trash can. They never were actually getting to who I wanted them to get to for some reason. So nothing ever happened because the proper person wasn't getting them. I lost my mind. But on the good side for this year, a lot of the things I've been begging for a long time are happening. And I think more than anything, I am the most excited about the changes with regards to like Codcaster and the broadcast and how people are going to watch it. We're going to have a lot. It should be good. Should be very good.
Yeah, I heard about that. I mean, that was hilarious when I heard
that. When someone said, "Oh, they just never got it." Like, what, dude? Like, what? I did countless hours every year just on.
It's like
because I remember every year the conversation between casters about the Codcaster. Like every year, it'd be the first thing they all talked about when they got together. It was like, "Oh, was it good? Is it bad? Have we got this? Have we got X, Y, and Z?" And every year, we're like, "No, we haven't got what we want. We haven't got this. No. Nobody's changed what we asked for." Yeah. Here's the thing though. Obviously, Codcaster now, and I'm not talking about the new one, just where it is now roughly, to how it used to be, right? Because obviously, like first Codcaster was Black Ops 2. Did you ever use that one?
Yeah, I mean, Ghost didn't even have one at the first tournament.
Yeah.
Was even ready for Columbus, remember?
Yeah, because I remember, obviously, like, time to go back, we used to do Modern Warfare 3 with no minimap.
Spectator, just RB.
Yeah, the Spectator with no minimap at all. Not even like the player one.
I can't imagine. I can't watch the game without a minimap. Like, it's
Now I couldn't even imagine it because there was that thing on Reddit that said, do we even need the minimap there to watch the players? I'm like, trust me, any caster is casting mostly off that minimap.
That was a big topic in the meeting. That was a big topic in the meeting of whether the minimap was needed. And I was like, what? Yeah, I mean, well, what's good though this year is like we have been able to. I will say this in prior years, like last year, I liked Codcaster for me because it had a lot of information that was helpful, but there was way too much information on screen for the average viewer. Like if you're watching a basketball game, dude, or a football game, you have a widget at the bottom which basically tells you the score. Do you know what Steph Curry is from the field at every moment? No, he'll hit a 3 and then a lower third will come up, or he'll hit a 3 and they'll talk about it. Like you get little snippets of information. You don't know what everyone it is at all times. You don't need to know all of that at all times. There's so much information on there that we would need as commentators. But now what's nice is because we'll be able to run it like on a PC, like backend, like there'll basically be a Codcaster for us and then a Codcaster that the fan will see. So a lot of stuff will be stripped away and it's going to be pressure on the production team and us to bring them that information. But that's how it should be. Like it's so congested in previous years with how much crap is just on the screen that you don't need, man. It could look so much better.
Worst for it.
Oh yeah, it was so bad. But to be fair, like for us as commentators, you kind of needed all of that.
Yeah, it was good to know the stuff, but then like how small it was and stuff was not good for the actual viewer. If you were watching it on a mobile phone, I remember sometimes 100%. We were sat in the green room trying to watch a game, and you were like, "Is he close to a specialist?" You couldn't tell. So especially in control, but for us it was great to have.
It's crazy you mentioned that because, and I suppose this is the way different kind of circles turn and go for it, but. If anybody's ever watched StarCraft 2, especially back in its heyday, it has this, and bearing in mind, not like it's a million miles away from Call of Duty in terms of, development and stuff. StarCraft 2 had a system where you could bring up individual stats, like APM could be up there, build queues, and they're all hotkeys.
But it wasn't up there all the damn time.
No, that's the best thing. It's hotkeys that was controlled by an observer, and they could just bring that up.
Yeah, we're gonna have that now. So
yeah, I mean, admittedly. 8 years ago, at least, StarCraft 2 had that. We've gone through enough Call of Duty titles to, get out a decade of them. But
part of the problem, though, was like we were limited by the console for a lot of things. And this is, to my knowledge, the first time that Codcaster will be on PC. It's like a lot of stuff we've wanted with even stuff like being able to pause the game and stuff. Like there's a lot of features we just haven't had before that are now going to be possible on the client side. Still be on PC, and I just don't know what I can speak to and what I can't. But I'm sure if I'm gassing up and getting people excited, they'll probably like that. But there's just gonna be a lot of stuff, which is very cool.
No, and that's what you want, right? Like you said before a minute ago, there are things I don't think the public need to see, but as a caster, you want to. Because here's the other thing, right? We compare it to the NBA. I think the NBA has a more natural kind of breaks and ebbs and flows than a Call of Duty game might do, right? In a 10-minute Call of Duty game, you don't always have the opportunity to go digging for stats.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to be if I don't have it on a bit of paper right in front of me right now, I'm not going to look for it. And it better be one bit of paper in large font.
We don't have JP this year either.
Oh no, do not worry this year. Another thing I can't speak a lot to, but stat side is a whole nother goddamn ball game. Finally, no, we have nothing to worry about. I'm going to have a personalized goddamn Maven iPad with every freaking thing I could ever want. Like it's not, that is one of the best things. That's one of the best things about franchising is money solves a lot of problems.
I'm going to ask you a question, and I think you can answer it because I don't think the public knows what I'm on about. But Black Ops 3 champs, are you talking along those lines?
Yeah. I think along those lines, if not more. Yeah, certainly. Dude, that is actually crazy to think about the stuff we had back in Black Ops 3. What was interesting, though, is that was a whole different, we always refer to that as like the Colorado team. That was a whole different company that like got contracted by Activision to like, they were like stats experts that like would try to do stuff, and years went on, but now it's just like more of an internal thing. And there's like, a team kind of working on esports and stuff. So it's very, it's cool. There's been a lot of advancements with that type of stuff, which has me very excited. There's just a lot more focus on esports, and like there needs to be. Obviously, we're making some big moves, especially from a financial standpoint. So, should be very, very cool. There's gonna be like as much as people can complain and worry about the title. There are so many positives coming, and maybe they won't all be this year, but there is so much that's going to change in a positive way because of franchising. And maybe, from a broadcast standpoint, stats standpoint, viewer standpoint, like there's a lot of good coming. So I think that's what's cool. Like, am I worried about some stuff? Sure, but I've never been more excited for Call of Duty than I am right now.
That's fantastic. It's probably a good thing
to
for
hear.
everybody listening as well. Let's change tack a little bit and talk about something the public don't ever get to see behind the scenes. Like, what would you say is maybe the biggest shock to people who just don't really get it? Like, for mine, like an example would be, I think the fact that the talent team, by and large, actually get on really well. Like, as people, they all genuinely get on.
I think what people have been shocked about since I started streaming is who I am, who I actually am versus who I am when I commentate. Because like obviously when I commentate, we're all very professional. Not just me, but like all of us. We're very professional. You need to be. There's like no swearing, and off camera we're all normal people. We're all crazy. Like we have a lot of fun together. If you were in the green room, there's a good chance I defend you at some point just with the stupid shit coming out of my mouth. If you've watched me stream, then you kind of get a taste of that. But we need to be. It's not a persona. Like I'm being myself. Like I'm not like faking it or anything. You just have to clean it up.
Tone it down.
Yeah, you got to tone it down a little bit. Yeah, I think that'd probably be the biggest surprise if you had like watched my stream before. It's actually crazy. This is a different topic, but it's been wild now. When I first started streaming, everyone knew that I was a commentator that was starting to stream. Now it's interesting the number of people that are like, "What do you do? Is this your full-time job?" Like, I have no idea. It's become kind of crazy, like that shift for me. That more people know me as just like streaming goofball recently than commentary has been kind of crazy. But
I can see that.
Just what else is like really big?
I just think that so many people would find it bizarre if there was a camera in the green room and you could hear some of the conversations that were had. I think we'd probably all be fired.
I would. Yeah, no. I most certainly wouldn't have a job. And it's not like we're all friends. Like I've heard a lot about a lot of other green rooms and talent, and I do have Ben and I bumped heads before. Puck and I have bumped heads 1,000 times. Or have there been talent that have bumped heads? Certainly, but like we're all friends. So like I think it'd be fair to say that I think our group that has worked together for a long time, or just on and off, is like closer or get along better than most. Because I've heard about like League and CS and some games where it's just not like that. Like it's
I've worked them. It's bad. It's not as good as you can think. So I think like maybe the chillness of Halo would be first, but Call of Duty is a very close second. Like in terms of how chill everybody is with each other.
My dog's trying to play.
It's crazy how nice everyone is to each other. Because I've worked with some CS people before, and while they can be quite friendly to outsiders, like there is like some fierce political stuff going on in the background. You're like, oh my god.
It's really competitive. I mean, as much as we're all friends, I mean that exists in Call of Duty too. But everyone wants to be like the top commentator. Everyone wants to get more camera time. Everyone wants to be a big personality. Like there's egos that get in the way. There's a lot to it. I think we've all managed it pretty well on the Call of Duty side, but that stuff just happens, man. Like none of us are in this job because we aren't big personalities or don't want to like grow our brands. Like everyone wants to just be as big as you can and do as good a job as you can. So people bump heads. It happens.
I still think it's pretty chill. Like, and that, it's one of those things, especially when you're spending days upon days together. Like, you guys had the Pro League and go straight to an event, and I was surprised there wasn't more conflicts. That's what I think shocked me the most. Like, everybody was just like, "Yeah, how you doing?" Everybody says hello. Big hugs coming in from people and stuff. That's always a cool thing. Let's something you mentioned though. Let's move on. Talk about your streaming. Because it is a bit of a change, right? Like it is your brand. There's no backup, but it's just you. And from what I can tell, like you're very fanatic about it. Like you get up super early, you roll out of bed, you're straight on camera. I've heard.
Pretty much. Yeah. I get up around between 7:30 and 8:30, and I'm online within 30 minutes from then. Usually just a quick shower, eat a banana, and go live every day. I mean, I remember I was just told always that consistency is the biggest thing. So even in the middle of our league last year, we tried to stream almost every single day. I mean, Joe and I were putting in work, man. We were waking up. I'd be at my corporate apartment in Columbus. I'd wake up, stream from, let's say, 8 to noon or 2, shower, go to the Pro League, commentate, go home, stream again until midnight, rinse and repeat every day. We were putting in just insane hours. And I mean, it's paid off. financially. It's been good to me. It's been a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to do, but yeah, this year's been a grind, man. It's just I've been enjoying the off season just because I can just stream and spend the rest of the time chilling. But we're about to get back into the midst of it here soon.
And I think that was one of the things like that. That's one of that was the main reason Jack stopped doing it, wasn't it? Because it was just taking up too much of his time in terms of wanting to stream.
It was I mean, the real reason he quit is Arden Forest CTF. He could not do another one of those, so he was done. But no, it was just I just think he knew what potential was there. I'll never forget that talk with him, and he was just like, "Should I do this?" I was like, "You'd be a goddamn idiot not to. Like, you have to. There's too much potential for you." And it becomes people have asked me that now. Like, I mean, I know we're obviously in the same realm of him, but I mean, sub and viewership wise, I'm probably close to where he was when he decided to switch.
Oh God, we're gonna lose Maven.
And no. People ask me, and I'm like, people ask me like if I'd ever do it. I don't think I could because it's just one. I love commentating too much. I absolutely love commentary so much. The other thing is streaming kind of sucks in the sense of it is very. If you are a full-time streamer, the downside to it sounds like an upside, but the downside is you can always do it. And you can always make money. So it becomes very hard to justify taking days off. And when you do, you feel guilty the whole time. Like even me, who doesn't make as much as some of the big ones, like I'll sit there and I'll be chilling and hang out with Kat. And I'm like, I could just be making money right now. It's very
stressful,
weird, like stressful. It's just like anxiety inducing. I know that sounds stupid. I know I'm playing a game. I know I'm streaming, but it's hard to like not do it.
I can imagine just going out for food or something like that.
Yeah.
Like going to the cinema or something like.
Yeah, I'm spending $200 instead of making a couple hundred or whatever. It's like it's just you always think about it in those terms, and that's kind of I really love that. But I like streaming. That part of it sort of.
Do you get that fear that a lot of streamers talk about, like fear of once you're away or you're doing events or anything like that? You're like, oh God, like are my subs going to be there when I get back?
Yeah, 100% do. Yeah, 100% do. So that I just don't love that part of it. Whereas I like. It's just not. Is it stable? Just I like having like a full-time job and the commentary side is a stable thing and knowing where I need to be and travel and do. I just kind of like have a little more structure to my life. So I think for me at least, the streaming will always be a secondary thing. Honestly, the best part of the streaming thing is it only helps me on the commentary side because just from a financial standpoint, like okay, you want to take me away from streaming this much? Well, I mean. I'm going to be losing money on this side, so I need to, be paid more on this side. So there's like that nice side of it though too, which is cool. Kind of creating a brand for yourself and starting to see that pop off because you actually have to weigh that. But yeah, no, the commentary. I think people are stuck with me, man. they're stuck with me unless. I mean, I just can't leave now. I've done Call of Duty this long. I put so much time and effort into it. I know it so well. Like. If it's gonna pop off these next couple of years is when it's gonna happen. Like I can't go anywhere, man.
Not unless you really hate domination.
Wow, it's turned.
I'm not casting this again. It's too much math. All right, we're going to do a section now called questions from the chat. These questions mainly for Maven, but ask pretty much anything you want. Obviously, anything too long, like when we used to get questions about franchising.
How do you think franchising is going to work this year? As a question in the chat.
That's too big of a question. Too big of a question.
Oh, God.
Loaded question, yeah.
All right, I've got a few that came in because I put it into the chat myself. People want to talk more about the amateur brackets this year. Talk about some of the amateur teams, the Pod Pro and how that's going to work at the Challenger events. We won't go too much into it, but some of the teams to highlight, people have put War from Europe have won every single 2K so far.
They're not every single one. They've won the last 5, though.
Last five.
I mean, it's pretty good going, in fairness. And obviously, they had a pretty good run of champs. It's a relatively similar team. I think they've got a very, very good shot of winning it. Out of everyone from Europe, they have to be the favourites. But there's a couple of good American players who didn't get picked up full time. Copper's going crazy right now.
Dude, what is he doing, bro?
But there's a lot of good American players who formed teams. But yes, I think to answer the question, I think War are up there, but there is still a good few teams that I wouldn't underestimate. Here he is.
This isn't Copper. This is Scout.
Oh no, that's the other one. All right, okay.
Come on, Copper. This is Copper.
That's Copper. Okay.
Okay, sorry. I just want to show you guys. What are you doing, buddy? What are you doing? Okay, let's go.
You'd think having a crazy dog like you've got, maybe that you would need more, but they are fantastic.
Okay, sorry about that.
I can't get enough of my dogs either, Maven. So I know exactly how you feel.
Dogs are the greatest thing in the entire world.
They genuinely are. They genuinely are.
I'm not really sure how to talk about these teams because I have put very little effort into that side of it, just because I know the nice part about franchising is I know for me personally, I just need to know about those 12 teams. Now, are there players that I'll need to keep an eye on? Like, even if you think about the NFL, you keep an eye on like some top college prospects and stuff that are coming in. You need to, but like for the most part, I'm just gonna be focused on the 12 franchise teams and players here and there because I don't think I'm gonna be commentating any of the amateur stuff. So I don't know. I mean, I've kept a loose eye on it, and some of the scrims, like obviously some of the top teams, at least within the scrim side of it, when you think about, I think there's been, Parasite's team, Exotics team, like Fidus team, like there's been some teams like UIU, I think has the P2P team, Cell's team. Like there's been some that have hopping in. They've been scrimming against like the pro North American team, so they've filtered into the pro scrim, some of the top ones. But we'll see how it plays out. They got a lot of money to play for this year, which is good for them.
Yeah. Yeah. That is a kind of a very good prospect for them as well. Let's some of these chats some of these questions, by the way, in the chat. Some are a bit big, asking about like the pod to pro scene, how much of it's going to be broadcast. I don't think that's like a topic Clint can answer at the moment. Probably
I don't know exactly. Like this, I said this earlier in the show, but because I haven't signed a contract yet, I have not been in a lot of meetings I typically would. So there's a lot I don't know about stuff, honestly, just from a structure standpoint and how stuff's going to play out on broadcast. I really don't know. I honestly don't.
That's fair. That's fair. That's why I didn't think you could answer it right now. Like a lot of it's under wraps, and even if you did know, you probably couldn't give it all away in a podcast, right? All right. So there's a few questions here. I'm going to actually skip forward and skip back. So this one is related to what we were talking about. You've been spectating scrims recently, Maven.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think are the best teams you've watched so far?
So the best teams I've watched so far, the best team I've watched so far is Atlanta, but I can't remember what happened, but there was a conflict. I think we had a scrim to watch. We were going to watch Atlanta versus Dallas, and it got rescheduled. So I actually still haven't watched Dallas from a Codcaster POV. I've watched Dallas play from their personal POVs, and they've been smoking people, but I haven't actually watched them play within Codcaster. So, but I think everyone would agree that's like the top two right now. You have Atlanta and you have Dallas. Huntsmen have also looked very good. At least when I watched a scrim, I watched Atlanta, Chicago, I think like a week ago, and I don't think Chicago won a map. I watched Atlanta, Chicago a couple nights ago, and they like split maps. So I don't know if it was just an off day for Atlanta or Chicago's improving. I'm not entirely sure, but they were solid. The two scrims I watched of Surge, Surge had a couple strong maps, but got smoked a bit in the ones I watched. The team that actually surprised me that was better than I kind of expected was Minnesota. Minnesota's going to be good. They've got a chance of being like I think potential to be like a top 4 team. The one other top team that I still need to watch, I still haven't been able to watch New York yet. I was in for New York versus Optic, but then I got kicked out of it for some stupid reason. We need to get into that, but I still need to watch New York play. So there's still a handful of teams I haven't seen. Well, it's weird because I've seen some teams just from hopping into Scump stream or something, but that's not really, you don't really learn much from that. Like it's the Codcaster stuff that really helps. So I still have a ways to go. We're still going to watch them probably this afternoon, tomorrow, and keep going up till the tournament. But dude, Atlanta's nasty. Atlanta's nasty.
Not very tall. Not very tall at all, though. Not very tall.
No, but they're good. Atlanta's going to be very good. Though, I said this is interesting. This is I like going off topic, but I said this to one of the players, but I do think it'll be interesting. I think the team with the most room to improve, because they've been horrendous, is Optic. But I do think we're at that point right now where it's less about online and more about, especially with the changes to hardpoint, like teams just learning how to play. So a lot of teams just don't know how to play the goddamn game yet. They just don't. But once teams learn to play, once everyone's kind of on an even playing field from that standpoint, I think Optic's going to be disgusting. But right now they're not. But like I just can't imagine with like Kenny and Slasher, like you talk about Dashy, some of the best players like over the last 4 years. They should be very good, but they are not very good right now. But they should be in the conversation, man. They've got to be eventually. Just people have to unlearn how to play hardpoint, man. You need to unlearn 10 years, not 10 years, but 7 years of how you wanted to play hardpoint. You need to just like bleach it from your brain and learn to play hardpoint in this game.
Trust me, when I'm playing hardpoint, I am clueless. It's the sticky spawns are still really getting to me. I'm sitting there going, I've broken this, they're behind me still somehow.
Yeah,
I don't
but
know what's going on.
That's what's interesting though. You need to like shift that what you just said, you need to change entirely. Yeah. It's less about breaking it, especially like when you can't, like if it's a really hard one. And actually you can like set up and like pin people and like pin them in the good spawn almost and spawn kill them because it's so sticky. You can like trap people. It's weird, man. So what looks like the good spawn can suddenly not be because you can pin the shit out of them. So it's like, dude, it's weird. I don't know how else to describe it. It's just like we've been watching it. I'm like, I do think with this new like hardpoint, teams are going to get very good at it. Like you can spawn teams out far if you get like the proper pension positioning. You can spawn trap the shit out of people. Like teams are going to get very good at it, but there's only a handful that seem to kind of get it right now. The rest are like just trying to like mold their brains and not playing the way old hardpoint plays.
Yeah, no, I can see that. Like I said, it's one of those things like you have to, even like just playing in obviously a lot lower level than these pros, just completely adjusting of when you rotate and what positions you have to hold isn't like previous hardpoints. You're right. You know, you could do certain things at previous hardpoints. You're like, right, if I can just get back to this one position, I could probably spawn them out. Here, you're like, I can't spawn them out unless I salt and burn the earth.
The number of times, like Joe and I'll watch together and we'll watch on Discord and just sort of talk to each other. And the number of times that Joe has said, so-and-so just made an incredible play and it did nothing for them because with old hardpoint, it would have been such a good play, but it's just not now. So it's like, you have to, and it's gotta be hard for these pros to like, just change how they look at stuff. I mean, as much as we joke about adapting, and I know there are some things about the game that it's not really adapting as much as like some things should just be fixed. But like when it comes to this right now with the way spawns are, yeah, they got to adapt, man. It's the way it is right now. They got to learn how to play it this way. So.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. These questions are related, but we'll ask them separately. What was your best cast in your career, Maven?
I have no idea. I've never actually given that a lot of thought. I know that's really weird, and you think that I probably should have.
Well, maybe I move on to this next one because it's related anyway.
I think that's a hard question to answer.
I have a moment. Well, I have a moment that sticks out to me, and I've said this before on previous stuff. A moment that sticks out to me is like Black Ops 3 champs, the end, like that grand final with it being Splice and like the USA chants and like the culmination of that because I worked a lot behind the scenes that year. That is one of the greatest feelings I've had after a cast. But I don't know that it was my best cast. So one of my best, I actually think that TriCast. Consider we never TriCast. That TriCast with Jack, Matt, and I was godlike. The one for the optic final for IW. I thought that was fucking good. And like we had never TriCasted before. It's hard not to stumble over each other and talk over each other. We were literally just tapping each other, pointing at each other to talk. But like it was good. It was really good considering like it's just different, man. If you've ever commentated, like just throw another person in the mix. It's just different.
Yeah, people have no idea how hard that is, by the way. TriCasting is unreal.
I thought we killed it, honestly. Like,
yeah, it was good. I remember you because I was worried when you went up there to do it. I'm like, I'm not a big fan of TriCasts. And I was a little bit worried when I saw you go. I was like, is this just like an ego thing? Are they going up there because they all want to do it and stuff? And then it turned out to be bloody good.
Well, it's basically what it boiled down to, sort of, is like that was an awkward period for me because I had been commentating with Mr. X and there was a point in time during the end of Black Ops 3 where he was kind of checked out and it pissed me off. And Jack was just like hungry. I mean, if you've met Jack back then, you just knew there was something special about him. And clearly I was right. You just knew there was something special there. And like, that was a really awkward time though, of like, because that's the first time that I've had to like sort of tell someone I want to commentate with somebody else. It's always been like Gandhi and I just did a full-time job. So Gandhi left to go to high res. Jack ended up leaving obviously for what he needed to do. But Matt was the first person that I had to sort of be like, I want to commentate with Jack. And that's not an easy thing to do. So that was like a real awkward time. And there were some people internally that like Matt and I more together than Jack and I. And Matt really wanted to be in the final, and Jack and I wanted to commentate together. So it ended up being that we just kind of met in the middle and decided to do the TriCast. And yeah, it worked.
Yeah,
It worked really well.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I wasn't a big fan of you and Jack at the beginning when you first cast together. I think but then you kind of found your rhythm together. I think actually like you switched more into roles, and that worked. Because before you were both just being crazy, and I was like, they're both just mental going on in this one. I think you guys sorted it out as time went on, and it became a fantastic watch. It was one of the ones where I would always, because I watch a lot of Call of Duty if I'm not at events, I usually with the stream muted. Because
mostly whenever I was commentating, I presume.
Yeah.
You were never commentating anything good. But I never. But you were one of the ones I actually watched because I enjoyed the hype. Like the hype for me was a big thing because it's not. Normally I can, if someone's saying something technical, something I already know it. Like you're just telling me the same shit I would talk about. So like, but the hype I really enjoyed is you got further on along that.
That was actually that was the hardest thing when I transitioned back to it was so weird. So when I would commentate with Matt, obviously I had to handle all the hype, right? But then when I commentated with Jack for years, I kind of got used to there was sort of this give and take, and like there'd be moments where I didn't have to like go crazy, right? Or if it was like it doesn't happen all the time. Like usually you just have to get hyped for a couple moments, but every now and then there's that 2 straight minutes of crazy. And it was so nice with Jack because like he could go, like if you watch the 250-249 Luminosity TK hard point at what was it, Dallas, like Jack goes, I go. We were both just losing our mind. Was it Dallas?
Was it not New Orleans?
Was it New Orleans? Might have been New Orleans. But there's like this given, like kind of both of us can go in. Then when I got back with Joe, at first I was like, oh, here we go again. Like I have to, anytime there's hype, it's me. Like I'm the one that's going to take it. But I actually think Joe and I are probably from a position standpoint, like what makes sense in the commentary. I think Joe and I are the best that I've had. Just with him being like the former pro, the knowledge guy. Commentating with Joe is so goddamn easy. It is so so easy. I've been very lucky. I've had some very good commentary partners.
You certainly have. There's a few more questions, but I don't want to keep you here too long because I know you've got.
Oh, you're fine. I'm not in a rush, man. I can talk forever, so don't worry about
it. don't start. So the other question that was related to it was what was the best? And here's the funny part about this: they only added me and you, so they don't care about Tunn's opinion.
No.
What was the best event you've ever done? Yeah, favorite event ever. I know what mine is, but we'll let you go first.
Oh, I feel like I have to say IW champs. Like just because of like that win for Optic and what it meant and that crowd, like I might say IW champs. Actually, you know what would have been the best? You know what pisses me off? Like one of the biggest. Oh, dude, stage 1 playoffs, Black Ops 3 was godlike too. But no, what really stage 1 of World War II with that crazy Optic versus FaZe final with no audience. If that was at a major venue with an audience, that would have been the craziest goddamn series ever. Like that had the Crowder 1v3, the Attach 1v3, the round 11, the 100-point comeback and hardpoint. Like that would have been one of the most memorable series in the history of Call of Duty if it wasn't at the damn studio in Columbus with no audience. And like I love that studio. It was great. I have so many good memories there, but like that is one that deserved an audience, a packed crowd. That would have been bananas. Remember the 2 best of 5s? Like, woo!
Yeah. We
had so many good finals in World War II, bro. I think 8 of 11 tournaments went to like 2 best of 5s. Like, it was insane.
Okay. If I was to be able to answer, I think it would have been one of the World War II events. I just think of just how competitive the games were. It was mental. Like, every single event. And the thing is as well, because I was only ever really doing Bravo, we would get all the losers games and like Optic were going out on Bravo and shit like that, and it was just it was fucking crazy.
For you on Bravo, that was a great year of Call of Duty because for Optic wasn't a losers bracket all year.
And then they put me on the open bracket.
Mine's interesting because mine's actually XP. But not really for the games as much as the way that I think that event was like
the original XP or like the second XP.
The second XP. Because that was like in my mind how like the world championship, right? We had this like fairground outside. I mean, I never really got to see it very much. There was this inside, massive stalls everywhere. We were all in these massive green rooms. The games were really good. Funny enough, even though I consider it the best event, you probably won't remember this, Maven, but me and you had a little bit of an argument one of the nights through DMs because you had to tell me something that was no fault of your own. Yeah, no fault of your own, right? And I was obviously angry.
Is that what I had to tell you? You had to move from Alpha to Bravo?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Oh, I just can imagine how pissed off he was.
I've had some tough conversations in my career, and that was not a fun one. Yeah, no, I remember. I
remember apologizing. I remember saying, "Look, I know it's not your fault, but I'm not going to be anything less than pissed."
You handled it well. You had a right to be pissed. I just remember there were some people that really loved Machine at the time. I think we all know how talented Machine is and how his career has gone. And
if you're going to be replaced by anybody, you can sort of take that one on the chin.
The funny thing is, I actually had better casts on Bravo than I was doing on Alpha. I was shitting the bed on Alpha. It didn't surprise me at all when I look back at it.
Well, see, I don't think it wasn't at the time. I can say this wholeheartedly. It was not as much to do with you as it was just there was somebody. I can't remember who it came from because I heard it from Drake. I don't know who over his head said it needed to happen, but someone was like, Machine needs to be on Alpha. And that's just all it came down to. Because if I remember right, it was just me, Matt, and you, right? It was just the three of us. Yeah. So it was like Matt or I wasn't leaving, considering we were the two main commentators at the time. So it was just like, sorry, Brice, Machine's bumping up. Dude, I just remember my cast of Machine was hysterical. I don't think we talked about anything. It was such a joke. But I do remember that was a tough combo.
Yeah. And I said I was bit. I said to you, I know it's not you. I said, but I'm not going to not be angry. You know what I mean? I'm not going to not be annoyed. Funny enough, though, I think I casted with like Teep and Phil, and like those are some of the best casts I've ever had. There's actually a game there with me and Teep, which I can't believe we've never got pulled up for, which we just went absolutely in on the Australians, from what I remember. Like just because they did something really stupid, and that was it. I think it was like
they would have been after you on Twitter, though. I know how it is with the Australians; they do not like you disrespecting the Australian teams.
Well, in fairness, we were right. The thing is, you can say whatever you like about a team, as long as you're right. Then I don't really give a fuck what the fan thinks. Like if I'm right, I'm right. I'm not here to pretend that your team is the best in the world if they're not. You know, I've always said that. Like as long as there's logic behind criticism. And it's valid criticism, I'll say it. All right? It's irrelevant how much you love a player, how much you connect with a player, and how much of their merch you've bought. I don't care. If a player's playing badly, they're playing badly. But no, that's off topic. No, favorite event was XP because it was mental. And also the storylines, you know, obviously Optic went out early and everyone in the backstages was like, oh God, Optic's gone at the World Champs. And then, you know, we had the European step up and it become like this whole other thing that we hadn't seen in Call of Duty for a while. So that was mine. One last question, then. Let's have a little quick look through and see what would be a good question for Maven. Here we go. Favorite Call of Duty to play, Maven. That's a good one to end on.
Black Ops 3, without question. Black Ops 3 was just so fun for me. Like because I can't, for example, like I can't play Modern Warfare pubs. I can't do it. And Black Ops 2, mostly it was for league play, was fun at the time. But Black Ops 3 just pubs and wagers were so fun for me. I just thought the movement in the game, everything about it was just a blast. I had so much fun with Black Ops 3. So Black Ops 3. Well, can we count Blackout? Because if we count Blackout, it's Black Ops 4 by a mile.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? People always put Blackout separate when they talk about
it depends if you include it. If you include it, Black Ops 4 is the greatest Call of Duty ever made in my eyes. Because Blackout, I put thousands of hours into Blackout. I absolutely love it.
Oh, yeah, I put a lot of time into Blackout, and you made me look like an amateur. I remember that. I was like, I played like 4,000 games. You're like, I'm on 12,000.
Yeah, no, I played so much, man. Played so much.
Yeah. It was a great game. Great game mode. This is what makes me hope that there is going to be a BR in Modern Warfare. Oh.
It's just fun. It's just fun.
Part of me at this point is like, screw it, dude. Just give us Blackout 2 in summer or something. Like, let's just get to the next Blackout. Because I also have my worries that a Modern Warfare BR would be like PUBG or something. And it'd be very
different. It'd be very different, wouldn't it?
Or Escape from Tarkov, which is the most stressful game I've ever played in my life.
I can't even watch that. It just seems stressful.
Fuck, yeah.
Dude, I can't stop playing it. I've actually been streaming it. It's addictive. I have so much fun. But we're getting off topic. We can't speak about another game here. This is about Maven. So, Maven, thank you for coming on. I do appreciate it. I do apologize for the technical issues here. I don't know what is happening. But any last thoughts, anything you want to shout out, say particularly to the fans, the stream, anybody else watching or listening right now?
Yeah, you can tune in daily to twitch.tv/Maven. I'm live by approximately 9 a.m. Central each day, and we have a lot of fun. But for those of you Call of Duty competitive fans, we're in for a good year. there's going to be some bumps in the road, but well, assuming I'm at Minnesota, which I should be, there's a lot to be excited about, and I think I'm saying to like the hardcore viewers out there, it's going to be a little bit bumpy at times. It's a big shift, but there is so much good stuff to come. You have a lot to be excited about with Call of Duty Esports, and hopefully I will be the voice delivering you a lot of the big matches for many, many years to come until I am old and I die.
Fantastic. Tunn?
Nothing in particular from me. We should be back at the normal day next week. Obviously, we had to go earlier because I'm away somewhere tomorrow. So we couldn't do tomorrow. Sorry. I know that Brice was like, I've got Maven in for Wednesday. I was like, can't do it. We're going to have to do Tuesday. Sorry. But yeah, we will be back to normal time next week. Barring if we are in Minnesota, but we don't know. So keep an eye on Twitter. We'll let you know what's going on next week. Other than that, this is on all the channels. If you missed any of it, it's on YouTube, it's on Spotify, it's on Apple Music, and all the other generic podcast websites.
And I want to apologize 1 second to Brice because I think I cut you off like 5 times. I'm going to blame the G Fuel that I had to get cracked and play a blackout. I'm a little bit.
hey, man! Like, this is a podcast. People are here to listen to you. You can talk as much as you like. That's never bothered me. It's the same conversation we would have at a bar, right?
Yeah,
that's exactly what I want this podcast to be like.
So
like
again,
thank you so much, Maven, for coming on. I do appreciate you taking time out your busy time. You know you're busy streaming. Hopefully, we will have you on again later in the year because I'd love to do either a pre or post event breakdown with you at some point. So we'll get you in and maybe a few other guests, and we'll go through some of the teams and see how they've actually panned out. Of course, apologies again to not only you but the stream for the technical issues here. I live basically in the sticks and actually have a radar dish on top of my house to get internet. Sounds weird, but it's true. And the storm has obviously played issues with it at the moment. Hopefully, fiber comes in the next month. But obviously, thank you also for watching watching Spitfire. We are on Spotify. I am keeping up with the comments on the YouTube. Not as many comments last week. Good amount of views, not as many comments. So make sure you put a comment down there. I do read all of them. Feel free to join the Spitfire Discord. If you need a link for it, I'll be tweeting out after the show. And thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you next week once again. See you then.